So the economic figures today show we're all getting poorer again, and we're led by the most incompetent Chancellor in history, Rachel Reeves. And there are some very big questions. She said she worked for 10 years at the Bank of England. Turns out it was 5.5. Said she was an economist at the Bank of England. Turns out she was in customer service. And on expenses, well, she had very big problems when she worked for a bank, and as a member of Parliament, had a credit card taken away. So, here's the question. Will the real Rachel Reeves please stand up? Please stand up.
Nigel Farage has recently released a video criticizing Chancellor Rachel Reeves, alleging that she misrepresented her professional experience on her CV. In the video, Farage questions Reeves' competence and integrity, highlighting discrepancies in her stated work history. The controversy centers on claims that Reeves overstated her tenure at the Bank of England and misrepresented her role at Halifax Bank of Scotland, BOSS. Reeves had previously asserted that she spent nearly a decade at the Bank of England. However, records indicate her employment lasted approximately 6 years, from September 2000 to March 2006, including a period during which she pursued a master's degree.
Well, I'm really proud to have worked as an economist at the Bank of England before I became a Member of Parliament, and also in financial services at Halifax Bank of Scotland. I've got the experience to do this job as Chancellor of the Exchequer, as well as the 14 years as I had as a Member of Parliament, chairing the Business Select Committee and as Shadow Chancellor. People should judge me on the job that I do, fixing the economy, fixing the mess that we inherited from the Conservative government.
Additionally, Reeves described her position at HBOS as that of an economist. Subsequent investigations revealed her role was more aligned with retail banking, focusing on customer relations and mortgage retention. Following these revelations, her LinkedIn profile was updated to reflect the accurate job titles and employment dates. Further scrutiny arose from a BBC investigation uncovering that Reeves was subject to an internal expenses probe during her time at HBOS. Allegations included inappropriate spending on dinners, events, taxes, and gifts. While the initial findings suggested rule violations, the final outcome of the investigation remains unclear. In response to these allegations, Reeves' spokesperson attributed the inaccuracies on her LinkedIn profile to administrative errors and denied any misconduct regarding expenses. In February last year, she told a Labour Party business conference, "I spent the best part of a decade as an economist at the Bank of England." The latest edit is the second by the Chancellor since entering government last year. She previously admitted to working in Halifax's Customer Relations Department, not the retail banking unit as she initially claimed. The BBC has also published a lengthy investigation into the Chancellor's time at HBOS after a former colleague's claims about her expenses at the firm went viral. Former Halifax colleague Kev Gillett said on social media that Mrs. Reeves nearly got sacked due to an expenses scandal where the 3 senior managers were all signing off each other's expenses. While Mrs. Reeves's team has vigorously denied the allegations, the BBC discovered another post on a private Facebook group for former HBOS employees, in which someone asked if anyone had any memories of the Chancellor from her time working with them. A former employee commented, "The expenses dept certainly do." Several others made reference to the allegations. The corporation has now confirmed there was an expenses investigation into Mrs. Reeves and 2 senior management colleagues while she worked at the bank. However, there is no evidence the investigation was concluded before she departed on good terms with HBOS. The whistleblowing complaint included dozens of pages of evidence, raising concerns about Mrs. Reeves and others using the bank's cash to fund a lifestyle, including spending on dinner, events, taxes, and presents. The complaint was submitted in 2009 and accused the now Chancellor of spending hundreds of pounds on handbags, perfume, earrings, and wine. Nigel Farage's video amplifies these concerns, questioning Reeves' qualifications and calling for greater transparency. This situation underscores the importance of accuracy in public officials' representations of their professional backgrounds and the potential repercussions of discrepancies.
Nick Timothy.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to echo the Minister's praise for Sir David, who was a loved friend to so many, including many members in this House. I welcome the statement today, which is clearly very sobering and a reminder of the importance of getting the PREVENT programme right. The seriousness of the statement contrasts quite sharply with the immediate reaction and the debate that followed Sir David's murder, when there was, to be frank, a bizarre and misplaced rush to talk about issues such as online civility rather than the clear threat that was behind the murder. So will the Minister join me in saying it's time for the denialism that we often see about the threat from Islamism to end, and recognising what he said earlier about the changing nature of the threat, agree that as the major terror threat that we face, Islamist extremism should always be the top priority of the PREVENT programme?
Well, I'm very grateful to him for the remarks that he's made today, and I know that he speaks with long experience both of working right at the heart of government and in the Home Office, and I think he makes some important points, and I give him an assurance that I will give them further consideration. I think he's also right, though, to reference the changing nature of the threat. Of course, Islamist extremism presents the biggest single challenge that we face as a country. That was made very clear when the Director General of MI5 delivered his annual threat lecture back in October. And he will have heard the comments that I made in response to the point that was made by the Shadow Home Secretary earlier about the number of referrals, and we are looking very closely at those. But I'm grateful to the contribution that he's made. I will reflect on it further, and I'm always happy to discuss it with him.
Matt Bishop.
The conversation between Nick Timothy and Dan Jarvis highlights a growing concern among security experts and policymakers. The urgent need for a more precise and effective strategy to counter Islamist extremism, with MI5 consistently identifying Islamist terrorism as the predominant threat to national security. The debate over the UK's counter-terrorism approach has reignited. An independent review by William Shawcross underscored these concerns, exposing a systemic reluctance within PREVENT to tackle non-violent Islamist extremism for fear of political backlash. Instead, resources appeared disproportionately allocated to far-right extremism, despite MI5's own assessments that Islamist threats pose the greater danger. Critics argue that this imbalance reflects a deeper institutional hesitancy, one that risks undermining national security for the sake of political correctness. Yet, the challenge is evolving. MI5 Director General Ken McCallum has warned that the lines between ideological threats are increasingly blurred, making it harder to categorize and preempt acts of terror. This fluid landscape demands a more agile and intelligence-driven approach, one that doesn't just react to threats but anticipates them. As Britain grapples with the shifting dynamics of extremism, one thing remains clear: the status quo is no longer tenable. If PREVENT is to serve its intended purpose, it must be restructured, refocused, and free from the political hesitations that have hamstrung its effectiveness. Whether the government can rise to this challenge remains to be seen. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts below, and join our Telegram community for more discussions and updates.